So
Yes.
tell us about the Sati book you've done.
Yeah, that is a very interesting book, and everyone has heard of Sati. You don't have to explain what is Sati because it's drilled into our mind that one of the social reforms of Lord William Bentinck is the abolition of Sati. When I began to study the subject, I looked for inscriptional evidence of Sati, sculptural evidence of Sati, and eyewitness accounts of Sati. So the first eyewitness account of Sati is when Alexander the Great was returning back home.
He's not great, by the way.
Alexander.
Alexander the Greek.
Or Alexander the Greek. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
So when he was returning home, then one of his contingents had an Indian general, Shashigupt. Shashigupt died, and then suddenly the Greek soldiers are astonished to see that his two widows come and they are fighting among themselves about who should immolate with him. That is the first recorded eyewitness account of Sati. After that, the next evidence which I was able to see is the 5th century AD from Madhya Pradesh and Ibn Battuta. So the actual instances of Sati where people say we saw it were very few. But what happens in the, when the new route to India is discovered by Vasco da Gama and a lot of foreign travelers start coming to India, they start writing about India because there's a demand in Europe to know about India. So they write travel logs and they feel that, Sati is one of the exotic practices of India, so we must include that in our accounts. But when you examine the accounts of these European travelers, they write in the same words, they reproduce each other's account. And the actual number who has seen those instances of Sati is very few. And you're not able to tell which area of India.
So the whole myth is created.
But it was all very reasonable, within reasonable limits. Suddenly, what happens in the 18th, 19th century, the situation changes. The East India Company, they become masters of Bengal. And they are very clear that they have come to India to make money, not to spread, civilization. So at that time, the missionaries, they are not allowed to enter British territory. And if you come, then you're sent back on the next ship. So the missionaries, they want to tell Parliament that, India is a land of evil customs.
Yeah, we are needed to save
and we are very much needed over there.
Yeah.
So they concoct figures of thousands, 50,000, 1 lakh women.
All sorts of things, yeah.
Immolating. But the interesting thing is that these accounts only come from Bengal. And Bengal does not have a tradition of Sati.
Which is in Rajasthan.
Sati and Johar are basically in Rajasthan.
So the actual empirical evidence would show it's in Rajasthan, but the people, British in Bengal, were making it up.
Yeah, and I just want to say that after independence, there have been about 40 cases of Sati, around 40 cases.
Where?
In India.
All over India.
All over India, and 2/3 of them are in Rajasthan and none in Bengal. So, it is amazing that we are supposed to believe that the moment Bentinck abolished Sati by a stroke of a pen, from next day in Bengal, Sati stopped.
See, I want my viewers to understand, a lot of people think that all this colonization was about Christianity. That is absolutely false. East India Company did not want Christian missionaries to come and interfere with their cash cow.
Yes.
They didn't want the missionaries to come and disrupt this huge money machine that they had created in India. So actually the East India Company was against the missionaries. There was a clash between them, and in the British Parliament they were taking opposite sides. East India Company always arguing that if the missionaries come, there may be a revolt or something and it will disrupt the cash flow.
Yes.
The missionaries had to then argue that we are needed because there is some savagery going on.
Yeah.
Right?
And in fact, the early officials of the East India Company, when they came to India, they were full of admiration of the Indian customs and institutions.
Right.
And in fact, they said that, we should not bring in British institutions in India. Their institutions are neglected, they need to be revived, but they are understood by the people and they're best for them.
Because they wanted to basically just mint money and let the society continue and not bother.
But that was one point. But there was a deep appreciation of Indian civilization before the coming of Islam.